Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News. This is Scott from the Nibiru channel. It is July 21st, 2017. And this evening, I am here with our doctor and physicist. Doctor, how are you this evening?
I'm very well. Thank you, Scott. And how are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to discuss in this live broadcast. The doctor has prepared a fantastic report on a recent discovery that we kind of stumbled onto. Now, before we start moving forward, we're going to look at a few things. We're going to talk about a few things. And the first thing I want to talk about is this notorious debunker that goes by the name of Dipshit Dazza, the cameraman. And yesterday, this idiot was trying to bait the doctor and I into one of his stupid crony hangouts where he simply just lies about everything. At this particular time, we definitely know that Dazza, the dipshit cameraman, is definitely the handler of a lot of these troll factions. He's basically the guy that gives the orders. And when his cronies can't handle the job, well, then Big Bad Dave has to step in. And yesterday, all he did was insult the doctor, insult her intelligence, and then continued to refer to her as an idiot. Okay, so let's just take a step back here real quick, folks. We all know when the truth comes out, especially big things, big truth. We know that these crumb bums crawl out from the rocks where they lurk. The reason why is because they want to dispel the information. They want to keep the information from you, especially if it's something big. So this crony and his other crumbs, they come out and they start assaulting the doctor, calling her an idiot. Well, this lady's not an idiot. I've seen this lady sit down and do mathematical problems that encompass an entire page, a whole piece of paper, things that me and you couldn't even dream of doing. And I doubt very highly if this Mr. Dazza, the dipshit cameraman, could do math. He has to rely on his other crony, Astronomy Live, another NASA shill, and these people are just plain liars. So they took the information and the discovery that myself and the doctor, we had so many hours involved in this yesterday, and they referred to it as grease and dust on the lensing of these cameras in outer space. Viewing the sun. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the bottom line. We're going to continue to investigate. The doctor is going to continue to write her professional reports. And they basically said that everything or anything that she writes isn't worth the paper that it's on, and they could literally just wipe their asses with it. Well, listen, folks. Their mothers are still wiping their little troll bums, okay? These people have no credibility, no education, and, well, I don't know, Doc. What did you think of the insulting remark?
Well,
yesterday?
Scott, I think a person who resorts to this kind of personal insults, which I might add are quite unjustified because I have never said any word against him personally. I would say that he basically has nothing better to say to refute our observational evidence. And to tell you the truth, I have never even had a student behave in such a disrespectful manner as this person is behaving. And well, I also haven't seen that he has a master's degree or a PhD. So You know, I don't know why he's saying what he's saying. Does he have nothing better to say? The idea that there is grease in space and that grease spots actually move across a lens. I mean, is that a logical deduction? I would say that he has a problem thinking logically.
Well, let me ask you something. Anybody who makes those types of statements about grease and spots being on the lens, I would have to consider them to be the idiot in that type of conversation. I mean, I know you're not going to insult somebody because that's not your personality, but it's mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll insult this asshole for you because that's exactly what he is. And ladies and gentlemen, this idiot debunker, he tried vigorously all day, sending me email after email after email and making his public invitation in order to basically set me up and set the doctor up. And well, just basically submarine you with a bunch of nonsense. So we wouldn't give him the time of day.
Yes.
And he immediately went on his live broadcast and insulted the doctor by referring to her as a complete idiot. And again, she's not an idiot. This is one of the most intelligent people that I've ever met in my entire life. Very impressive mathematics skills and very impressive observational skills. And again, I mean, you're talking to a woman who has 2 master's degrees, a doctorate, and lectured at a major university for 17 years in physics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then they were making fun of her accomplishments as a professional. But yet, the people that were making fun of her, one idiot is a box boy at Walmart. Dave sits at home on, New Zealand's what you refer to as like their workers' compensation. So he's sucking and leeching off of the government while he makes his debunking videos, who he also asks for donations. He has a PayPal account. If you'd like to donate to his Facebook page or his YouTube account, you can. And his videos are monetized through YouTube. So who's the liar? Who's the idiot? Well, Dave, Daza, the cameraman, well, he's notorious for being an idiot. But anyways, instead of wasting more time on that dipshit, let's get into what we're really here for.
Mm-hmm.
But ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to warn you, in case you see these videos scrolling through YouTube because they have their little factions and this is the way they try to discredit someone. But these people are idiots. Anyways, doctor, we have a current view of the SDO Solar Dynamics Observatory, and this is in the 304 angstrom view. And we're looking at a lot of flaring, a lot of action on the sun. And I know you were making some observations today on solar wind and cosmic rays, everything that was coming in. So what are you seeing right now with our sun as it's looking pretty active?
Yes, it looks very active, especially since we're supposed to be heading towards the solar minimum. And it looks very active. And from the observations that we've done, there are lots of objects close to it. I think in a way the sun is reacting to these objects and becomes unstable. The coronal holes, there's a coronal hole that was facing the Earth. And so we're getting hit with the cosmic rays coming from the sun, high energy particles. We're going to be hit very soon by fast solar wind. And the solar wind seems to be getting faster and faster. So everything looks uncomfortable for our planet, let's put it that way. We are having already a lot of earthquakes, and I think that will increase because of this. But yes, I see a lot of solar flaring, a lot of activity on the sun, and plus we have these coronal holes. So we're getting both sides. These objects do cause the coronal holes, and they do seem to cause reactions from the sun. I have seen that happening for quite a few months now, that the sun seems to first become very quiet. Sometimes it actually goes dark, loses light emission, and then suddenly it reacts in a strong manner. And we get these CMEs, huge CMEs, and solar flares. And there we are. We see a lot of, and we see the coronal holes there.
I'm trying to get to the
the
211, and
yes.
for some reason it's bringing up a green planet, or a green a green sun. I don't know what's happening here.
Oh my goodness! There we are.
Okay, this is
I think that's a composite.
No, this is completely wrong.
It is. It's showing the wrong image.
Yeah, and I'm clicking on the right image. Okay, that's a little fishy.
It is indeed.
I've never had that happen before. I mean, let me take another crack at this. And
yes, I think what you saw was a mixture between, yeah, it's happening again.
Okay.
That's strange.
It says, what is this, something new?
No, that's the 17.1, possibly mixed with the 35.
Well, I've never seen that before.
No, you see, yeah.
What is going on here with the SDO site? They don't want us to see the 211. Well, let's just check this one.
Yes, the 193.
Oh, everything's mixed up.
Yeah, that's another composite, you see. It's a couple.
Do you see what's happened?
Yeah, and the 211 was mixed in there. So
okay, this one's correct.
Yes, that's the 304.
Oh, this is very, very fishy, because looking at the 103 and the 211, these are the two views right here that we see these large coronal holes very vividly.
Yes, it is.
The other views do not show them all that well. Oh, what is happening? This is very weird. I've never seen that. I'm going to try this one more time. I'm going to open the link in a new tab and see if that helps. Nope. What is going on? Wow.
Amazing.
So that kind of looks like they don't want us to see something.
Yes.
They've mixed these views up so you can't see them.
Yes, I'm not surprised. They've been blocking or doing everything they can to stop us from seeing what's really happening with the sun. So
well, let's see if we could get one up on them right now. And let's go over to the GOES 13 satellite, which shows us an X-ray view of the sun.
Yes.
And we'll be able to take a look at the massive amount of this large coronal hole, because there's a lot, folks, that's really not seen under the corona. And this X-ray gives us a much, much better view of what is actually happening.
Yes, I mean, the coronal hole in X-rays is so large now that it is half or more of the solar surface facing us. It's just unbelievable.
Boy, that's really got me startled. That maybe I'll try another browser, but I've never seen those mixed up like that. But anyways, what we're looking at here, folks, we're looking at the GOES 13. This is basically like an X-ray scan of the sun. This gives us a better view of what is actually going on with the coronal holes on the sun. Now, you may just see in some of the other views of SDO, you may just see, a coronal hole here, a coronal hole there. This actually shows you the massive weakness in the corona underneath, what you really can't see. Okay, just like an X-ray, at the hospital or the doctors, they need to see what's inside. And that's what this view is showing you. And you're looking at a very large portion of the sun facing us that is one massive coronal hole from the north to the south regions of the sun. So over the period of the next 5 to 7 days, you know, all of this is going to be coming directly towards us. I mean, it's already started to happen earlier today. We're going to continue to see these pulses come in, a lot of solar and cosmic energy impacting the Earth. Once those particles penetrate, it really starts to heat up the core. The doctor has done a fantastic report on that today. She finished it up and put a video up herself onto her Planet X Physicist channel. Very good, in-depth report. Once again, if any of you would like to own the report, you know exactly what to do. And what we're looking at here is a very serious situation. This is going to increase the earthquake activity and volcanic activity, of which we have 38 of them erupting right now on this planet. 38.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nothing to sneeze at, folks. Now, what we're looking at here leads to the potential possibilities of multiple disasters. If we start having, you know, magnitude 6, 6.5, and 7 magnitude earthquakes happening simultaneously, well, look, you know, we're going to be in some trouble here. So once again, if any of you live in these areas, heed the warning, use caution, get a preparedness plan, be prepared. That's the best advice that I have to offer. For the rest of you that don't live in earthquake zones, hey, you know, you can sit back and watch and, you know, pay attention to the information. If you see something popping up, hey, get it out there on your Facebook page, email me. But, you know, I'm usually on this anywhere from 12 to 16 hours a day. So there's not too much that I miss. But doctor, when you're viewing this GOES 13 X-ray, you want to give your observations on what you're seeing there?
Yes, well, the biggest thing is, of course, the huge coronal hole. And what is happening is we are getting fast-moving charged particles coming right through that coronal hole. And it's impacting our magnetosphere. And some of them, well, if they're very high energy, they come right through the magnetosphere. They come into the Earth's atmosphere. They ionize our ionosphere, of course. They create showers of other particles, including neutrons. So they cause a lot of radiation to actually impact the surface, as well as create currents that induce other currents that, of course, will lead to earthquakes and volcanic activity. It also, the volcanic activity warms up the oceans because the ocean floor is littered with volcanoes. So the oceans warm up more and more. That leads to changes in weather patterns and things like that. So basically, it's what I would call the start of disasters happening on Earth. This is where they start. They start in the interior of the sun.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Just give me one moment here. I'm going to go ahead and I want to stop my screen share real quick. And I need to set a moderator real quick in the live chat. Just give me 1 second. Boy, my computer's running pretty slow.
Okay.
My internet. Okay, Mr. Curious Unknown, my dear sir, we have now deemed you and knighted you the moderator in the live chat. You now have the wrench. Feel free to whack and slug anybody that gets out of hand. Now, we're going to go ahead and move right back to what we were doing. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to pull up that report that you wrote.
Yes.
And we're going to get right into this because I think this is important.
Yes. and I named it brown dwarfs close to the sun, the best evidence yet, because I believe this is the best evidence we have come across so far of these objects being so close to the sun, actually in the sun's corona.
Okay, so now these are the photographs that we're going to begin with, that myself and the doctor captured on the helio viewer. And this is what they were referring to as the grease spots moving through space, dust particles, which we know there are, but not the size of freaking planets. And this is what they were referring to the doctor as an idiot. Okay.
It's unbelievable that people can actually think that real objects moving across the surface of the sun can be spots on the camera. It's unbelievable that people can come up with things like that. But anyway.
Yeah, but I'm going to turn this right over to you, Doctor. You've written a short abstract opening for this, so go right ahead. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Scott. So in the abstract, I mentioned the 5 objects. And this comes from the Hinode satellite, which is a Japanese launch satellite, but it's operated not just by the Japanese, but also by NASA and the UK Space Agency. And so these are X-ray images because the spacecraft has an X-ray telescope. And as I mentioned, okay, I'll just go through what I mentioned in the abstract, just a summary of what I will discuss, what I discussed in the article. So it's about these 5 objects, and as far as I'm concerned, these 5 objects are the best evidence yet of these objects being at the sun. And they range in size from about 4 times the size of the Earth to about the size of the Earth. There are also smaller objects, but they're not as dark as these ones. So as you can see in the first image, we see 3 objects. In the second image, we see 4 objects. But what else happens between the first and the second image is that the corona actually gets larger. So the corona grows.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And as you can see, the first image is from 12/12/29, and the second image is from 12/12/37. So they're only a few seconds apart. In other words, only 8 seconds apart, the 2 images. So in 8 seconds, suddenly the corona grows. Then in the third image, it's again only a few seconds later. It's from 12/12/54, so the timestamp is right at the bottom. So that's only, well, it's only 17 seconds later. It's only a few seconds later. So again, you see the corona has shrunk again. It's not as large as it was in the second image, but it's not as small in size as in the first image. So you see quite a fluctuation in the size of the corona in just a few seconds. Now, why would the sun do anything like that? It obviously is actually reacting to these objects coming to the sun, and they seem to be arriving. They then, you see in the next image, the fourth image, and that image is from 6 minutes later. The objects have now moved right across the surface of the sun. They're now on the right-hand side of the sun, or the western limb. And we actually see 5 of them now. So they seem to come together in a sort of a line, following each other, coming right up to the sun. And this, I think, is actually fascinating, that these objects come to the sun, and if you examine them carefully, so if we scroll down a little bit, okay. I think I look at some close-ups of the objects. Yes, I mentioned the Japanese satellite. Hinode means sunbeam in Japanese, because it's a solar observatory. So in this image, I know it's not very clear, but we can actually see that there's a diffuse boundary around the objects. And that means that there is plasma, and this is the sun's plasma surrounding the objects. So they are actually in the sun's corona. And that is even clearer for the objects that are in the sun's corona, that are not actually over the surface of the sun. There are also other objects that are not as dark as these objects. These objects are absolutely dark. And the fact that they are dark means that they do not emit X-rays, because these are X-ray images. Now, the blue arrows point to the dark objects, and the green arrows point to the objects that are not as dark. And if we look at the top one in the sun's corona, you see that it's not as dark. Well, the core of the object is sort of it's a darker color, but it has a sort of a ring surrounding it. So the moment I look at that, I know immediately what it is. It has a dark core, and it has a light gaseous envelope. And the kind of object we therefore are dealing with is objects that have a gaseous ionized envelope. And there are only two types of objects really that have that kind of structure, and that is white dwarfs and brown dwarfs. Brown dwarf stars that are basically cooled down white dwarfs. So what we have here is a whole lot of brown dwarfs so close to the sun, they are in the sun's corona. And the ones that we saw first, the dark ones, they have dark cores. That means they are new arrivals at the sun. They haven't had enough time to absorb energy from the sun to have ionized or absorbed enough potential energy to be able to properly ionize the envelopes, or absorb enough energy to start emitting some light from the core. That's why they're so dark.
So you would definitely agree that, in your professional opinion, these are not grease spots on.
Oh, definitely. They're actually immersed. It's quite clear they are immersed in the solar plasma of the corona, of the sun's corona. That is quite obvious to me. They are, in other words, behind the corona. And if some of the images, it's not as clear. Maybe if we go up and actually zoom in onto the top image, we can see there are some of these brown dwarf stars.
You're talking about the top image,
yeah,
right here?
Not this image, the one before, because
right
this is not very clear.
I
yeah.
see.
So I think one of these, I think the third image, if we zoom into it, we'll be able to see the lighter brown dwarf stars, and some of them, it's a bit difficult, I see.
Yeah, it will start to pixelize.
Yeah, that's the problem. All right, but some of them, these spots, okay, so we have the two spots, and then below that we have another one. And some of them are actually, we can see they seem to be further back into the sun's corona. And I know it's not very clear, but you know, I write these in the Word document, and and there's one close to the bottom that also looks like it's behind some of the plasma in the corona. And so some of them are further back, and there's quite a lot of plasma in front of them. So it's quite clear to me that they are inside the corona. And this is just beautiful evidence of these objects, and they seem to be large numbers of them on the sun. So it's,
you know, Doctor, real quick, just so everybody
yes.
knows that, you know, there's always the talk about, okay, if a planetary object gets that close to the sun, it would explode, it would annihilate it. Well, let's not forget, folks, that we have a planet named Mercury that is the closest to the sun. On the other hand, Harvard scientists astronomers and astrophysicists over the past 10 years have already proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that brown dwarf stars and other dwarf stars will orbit another larger star like ours. They've made the observations, and these types of stellar objects getting that close to the sun are not going to explode. They are going to rejuvenate. This has already been proven by Harvard scientists and scientists at Cornell University. Okay, we're talking about two of the top-notch schools in the United States. So are we going to call them idiots? I don't think so. Okay, so the fact of the matter is, these stellar objects are attracted to the sun like a parasite and a host. That's their feeding source. If they get this close to the sun, like the doctor said, as time goes on, they're going to start to rejuvenate. Now, let me jump back one more time. These Harvard scientists have already proven that if a brown dwarf star does get close enough to a sun like ours, they will start to rejuvenate and emit light. So these things are possible. You can't let somebody without this type of education try and tell you any different. The fact of the matter is, there are entirely too many scientists around the world that have made groundbreaking discoveries on dwarf stars over the past 10 to 15 years. As of lately, they've developed techniques to spot them. Okay, because if they're not near a host sun, they're basically invisible. They're basically black. And it takes a lot of effort to find them in deep space. But when they are right next to a host sun as big as ours, well, bingo, you're going to see these objects illuminated as you're seeing on your screen. It's not black space grease as as the debunkers tell you.
Yeah.
But again, this is their job. They're meant to get out there and make you look like a fool, use fancy words and terminology to try to sway you. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So anyways, Doc, now that we got that out of the way, because I just wanted to make that clear for everybody, because they will all start to say, oh, you know, if it gets that close to the sun, it will blow up. But not these types of objects, ladies and gentlemen. They feed off of the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, we cannot forget what these objects are. I like to sometimes call them stellar remnants, because what they are is solid cores of one's main sequence stars. That's what a white dwarf star is. What is left of a main sequence star when it becomes a white dwarf is a solid core. It's made out of solid material that used to be at the center of a main sequence star. So we have a solid core of a star going into the atmosphere of another star. And of course, it's not going to blow up. It used to be at the center of a star like this. It goes into an environment that is natural for this type of object. And so we cannot expect it to blow up in any way. It's a star remnant. It won't do that. If it was a planet which is made out of rock, then of course the planet might, it will melt, basically. It will become molten lava. What would be left of the planet is the solid core again, because even planets like Earth have a solid core. So that might remain, but the rest of the planet would melt. And the core would probably fall into the center of the star itself. So these are not planets. These are stellar remnants. These are what's left of what was once a star. And what has happened, what happens to stars is they start losing the ability to ionize their clouds of gas. And that's why they start the aging process that makes them increase in size and become red giants. And eventually, as the energy decreases further, they will become white dwarf stars, and eventually they become what we have here is brown dwarf stars. And so these stars have been observed to cluster and to move around each other. And this is what I have observed them doing in the solar system. And basically, I have seen them rejuvenate because they come to the sun. They dark initially. The 2007 object was dark, except it was emitting a little bit of light on one side as it approached the sun. And then it got dark as it approached the sun, which to me told me that it was going from emitting radiation to absorbing energy. So I could see from that observation that these objects absorb energy from the sun. So all these ideas that I've developed over time is from observing what these objects are doing in the solar system and close to the sun. So again, here we have these objects. They seem to arrive at the sun. And one more thing that I have noticed is that whoever was operating the satellite took the pictures, shot these images or acquired these images just seconds apart. There was a reason for that. And the reason was they actually wanted to capture the objects and the sun's reaction to them.
Exactly.
So these people that are operating the satellite, they were expecting these objects to arrive at the sun. And they took these pictures on purpose. So there are a lot of astronomers and people who operate these objects that know what is going on. This is evidence that they know. They're not working blindly. They are doing this on purpose. They know these objects are here. They know they are affecting the sun, and they are studying them. So basically, this is what we want to do as well. We also want to study them and find out what they are doing to our sun. And I think
that's what we were doing. We were making these observations. And, folks, these images are only going back to June 28th, last June, this year. These aren't some old photographs we dug up. They're making these observations now, right now. Getting back to the brown dwarfs. Scientists at both of these major universities and many other universities have deemed these objects to be some of the oldest stellar objects in the entire universe. Okay, so we basically live on very young planets, and our sun would even be considered, a young star. It has a lot of life left in it. But as of lately, with the interaction of these objects, well, that's where the issues are popping up.
That's right.
Folks, this doesn't have anything to do with any type of a rogue planet crashing into Earth, because that's not going to happen. Planets will repel each other. That would never happen. One of these brown dwarf stars is not going to crash into the Earth. But the interaction with these objects and with our sun, that's where the danger lies. The danger lies with the reactions of the sun, and then that reaction making its way to our planet, putting us in harm's way. Solar flares, these X-ray flares, all of this solar wind, these sunspots, the coronal mass ejections, all of this is a big issue with our planet, therefore inducing earthquakes, volcanic activity, possibly even putting a small or medium tug, possibly causing our planet to tilt a little bit. Now listen, folks, a few degrees of a tilt in the Earth's axis will create all kinds of crazy weather. We've been seeing it now for over a year, and now it is getting worse. Nobody can say that the weather situations on this planet, as of lately, are normal. Okay. If you say that, then you have to be an idiot, because these weather situations are causing the deaths of thousands of people. You may not hear about it in mainstream media, but I know everybody that listens to this channel, you know, I know you're out there. I know you're looking at a lot of information from around the world. TheWatchers.com, great website to gather this information and see what's happening around the world. And also the Sign of the Times website. Two great websites to keep track of what is really happening around this world. People are posting things on Facebook and Twitter, and they are exposing what is happening. Now, that's one good thing about social media. And now they're starting to put these things on YouTube. And now people are able to see what's happening in Taiwan or Japan or any other country, the Middle East. I mean, this is what we need to do. We need to make these observations. We need to share all of the information. That is key. There's nothing that we can do about this. We can't just flip off the switch and say, okay, let's go back to normal life, because I don't think that's going to happen. And we're not talking about something that's going to literally just happen overnight. This has been coming a long time. That's why myself and the doctor and many others have been trying to expose what is coming. And the times that are coming are probably not going to be good. Now, I don't think that, you know, we're talking about total destruction of mankind. But folks, just from what I'm seeing and just from what we're experiencing, there are going to be some very trying times for some people on this planet. It's almost like that old saying goes, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. That may be a big factor. Worrying about our governments and what they're doing, and what they know and what they're hiding is also a huge issue. So we have so many factors. That's why it is important each and every day for myself and the doctor to spend a lot of time, hours and hours and hours, researching everything every day. Every single day, there's something to look at. And maybe you didn't finish what you were doing the day before or the day before that, and you have to go back to that information. So there's a lot to do in the course of a day trying to find out the truth and what is happening. And we need to report on it. We need to continue to spread the word. That much is a fact. But Doctor, getting back to
yes,
the imaging.
Yes, in these images, what I wanted to particularly show was that the corona was fluctuating, which shows that these objects have a strong effect on the sun. Yeah, they are tiny, but yet they seem to be extremely powerful. And the way these objects connect to the sun is usually magnetically. They also draw plasma from the sun. They are, after all, brown dwarf stars. And don't forget, white dwarfs are well known to draw plasma from a main sequence star, from quite some distance, actually. But the brown dwarf stars seem to do it from a shorter distance. They actually seem to go into the sun's corona to be able to draw plasma from the sun. So they do two things. They draw plasma and they absorb energy. They may absorb the energy through the magnetic connection that they have with the sun. Right, so we can scroll down a little bit more.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah, I just wanted to give a real quick shout out to one of my good friends. He's in the live chat with everybody right now. Hush Puppy, fantastic guy, very, very smart, a lot of experience. He's been investigating the same factors that we've been investigating for a long period of time.
Yeah,
and he has come upon threats from, you know, these troll factions, even to the point where they actually threatened his daughter.
Wow.
I mean, that's just pushing it. They did the same thing to me last year by sending pornographic photographs to my 13-year-old daughter's Facebook inbox, stunning the living hell out of her. And, that's very traumatizing. So, ladies and gentlemen, the fact of the matter is, the threat of the information is real. And the threat that we have in our solar system is also real. So I know sometimes a lot of it is hard to believe, but people are going to major extents to stop the flow of this information. I just got several emails today from subscribers and viewers in Israel. Now, all of a sudden, they can't see my YouTube channels. They can't see them anymore. So I advise them to go to our website, and the link to our website is in the description box under every video, NibiruPlanetX2016.com. All of the videos, all of the information is right up there on the website, folks. You can click on the video. That bookmark that you make for the website, that may work if you're getting blocked somehow from not seeing YouTube and our videos. But yeah, Hush Puppy's in the live chat right now. Very, very nice guy, very smart. And they've come at him too. They've come at him with everything they have in order to shut him up and stop the flow of information. But listen, he's a tough guy. Like myself, we're tough, we're educated, we're not stupid, and we're not going to just lie down. So get that through your head, debunkers. We're not lying down. You may bend over, but I don't. But anyways, Doc, let's get back to this report.
Yes, thank you, Scott. So here we see some images from another Japanese satellite. This is an older one, the Yoko. It was also a solar observatory, and the image is also X-ray, but it's soft X-ray, so it's lower energy X-ray. And these are the last images that this spacecraft transmitted. And as you can see, the first one, we just see the sun. In the second one, we see an object approaching the sun or going between the sun and the detector. And in the last image, we actually see the object in front of the sun. And if we look at the object, it has a surface which looks quite homogeneous. It's emitting X-rays. So I don't think it's a planet. Planets don't emit X-rays in this homogeneous manner. So some of the gas giant planets can emit X-rays, but they will do it either from the poles or from the equator of the planet. I think Saturn is from the equator. So this is not a planet. This is, of course, a star. We cannot, however, determine the size of this planet because we don't know what the distance is between the sun and the planet and where how close it was to the detector. But it's obvious that, again, the operators wanted to capture this object. So because the first image is from 1419, and this is from 2001. This is from nearly 16 years ago, or 15 and a half.
That's critical information too, because, as far as we were trying to trace back, getting a timeline of events when these objects started moving in, I think the furthest we got back was 2006, 2005, then saw the incredible images on the Stereo Core 2 in 2007, late February. That's what kind of blew the lid off of things for me. And that's what turned me into a target, which I don't care,
Yes, but don't forget,
this is amazing.
God, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say that you become a target because you come upon real evidence of what's actually going on. So the fact that they attacked you in that manner because you discovered those images shows that there was something there. because, I mean, why would they leave you alone when you didn't get, before you got to those images? And then suddenly when you get to those images, you get attacked, because it's evidence of what's actually going on. And the attack in itself is evidence of the fact that it is truth. I don't know if you understand what I mean, but
Oh,
that's...
I understand completely. Believe me,
Yes.
I know I'm fully aware of their tactics. Believe me, I studied them. Well, I studied them more than they probably know their own program.
Yes.
So that's another reason why they don't like me, is because I
Yes.
fight back, and you know, I smash them around. I smash them around. Also, I don't spend my time making stupid videos about them, but
yes,
you know, I've seen a couple of good ones. But
yes,
I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to move on into your report, because this is
yes,
where things are going to get kind of weird.
yes. And then from that object, I move on to the SDO, and these are images from the 19th of July, so just a few days ago. And in the first image, and this is from the 211 angstrom, and you see that the sun is out of focus. And you also see that it's slightly moved slightly up from where it was before, and we have a cutoff line. Now, there's only one reason why cutoff lines are introduced to these images, because it takes work to place a cutoff line with each image. So it takes effort. Why go to all the effort unless there is something to hide there? So this is what I think. There is obviously something to hide above the sun. And the sun actually seems to be moving up. Now, I know that some people will say that it's the camera that's moving up, but I have seen this before. I saw it in 2016, and I have some images from that. And usually the cutoff lines are associated with, or where the cutoff lines and where the sun is moving are usually associated. For example, if you look at the features on the sun, they become straight lines, vertical lines. So that shows that the sun is moving vertically, up or down. And in this case, I think it's moving up. So the motion of the sun is perpendicular to the cutoff line. So that means that the sun is either moving in the direction towards the object or away from the object that's being hidden by the cutoff line. And so that's the first thing I noticed.
No, I also wanted to point out, Doc, so nobody misconstrues anything here.
Yes.
Whenever you see this shaking up and down and all this crazy rotation, remember that's a 48-hour loop in time lapse. That's why it looks really, really fast. If you slow this down and you look at the Helio viewer second by second, which you can do, you don't even notice it. And then you start to see the minor movement. So again, what she's referring to is in a 48-hour time lapse loop. So it goes very, very quickly, makes it look super erratic when you're watching that 48-hour loop. So just so everybody doesn't misconstrue that the sun's jumping around like you're bouncing a ball, but they're slight movements.
Yes, what they actually do in the 48-hour loop is they take the cutoff lines, and you see the yellow arrow there is pointing to one cutoff line. And what they do is they take the cutoff line and they place it at the edge of the image. So they would move the whole image so that that cutoff line would be right at the top. And then there would be another cutoff line on the side or below the sun, and they move that down. So the sun would then seem to shake in the 48-hour loop. But what I mean here about this image being out of focus is two possible things. Either the sun is actually in motion at the time that the picture is taken, or the camera is in motion at the time that this picture is taken. Okay.
Yeah,
so let's start with that.
Yeah, there's only two possibilities with what you're saying.
Yeah. So if we scroll down a little bit, we're actually going to look at the images that I saw in 2016. Or was it, I think they might have been from earlier this year, from the 25th of January. All right, so what we see here is just about all the images are out of focus. And I actually placed these, the images of the sun so that I could determine where it was in relation to some markers. So they're little markers at the bottom, these two straight lines.
So you're trying to plot the movement that it's making.
Yes, I actually plotted the movement of the sun. So with respect to these markers. So if you look at the first, you compare the second image with the first image, you see that the sun actually looks like it's closer to the bottom marker. And if you look at the corona,
I see that.
it shifted a little bit to the left as well. So the motion is downwards and to the left. Okay.
Yes, you can see that very clearly. First two photographs.
Yes.
You can see the drop.
Mm.
That's very, very clear there.
Yes.
And then it moves back up slightly.
And don't forget, these images are only 1 minute apart. And then in the third image, you see the sun has moved upwards again. Yes. And it's moved even further to the left. So the red arrow actually shows the direction of the motion. In the fourth image, the sun stays at the same distance from the bottom, but it moves back now towards the right.
Yep.
And the yellow arrow indicates a cutoff line being used to hide part of the corona. So that's where the object would be. The cutoff lines were not as dramatic in January as they are nowadays. But notice, if this was the camera in motion, what would cause the camera to move in this way? Because this is a satellite in the geosynchronous orbit. It's at very high altitude. There is nothing really from the Earth's atmosphere that could affect it or cause drag. But it could, say, be impacted by a micro asteroid or something like that, which could possibly move it in a certain direction. But to have it being impacted so that it would move in these different directions at 1 minute apart is extremely unlikely.
Yeah, so we've seen them do this countless times. And as of lately, they're doing it a lot.
Yes. So I concluded from this that the sun, the actual sun, is in motion. And why would the sun be in motion? Because these brown dwarf stars have such a strong effect on the sun that they can actually attract it or repel it in the direction where the object is. And in this case, the object that we could see, according to the cutoff line, was a little bit, where the yellow arrows indicating. So some of the motion of the sun, say upwards and downwards, is at a diagonal, and the cutoff line is at an angle as well. So we see that the direction of motion is always related and is perpendicular to the direction of the cutoff line. So, and of course, the sun only seems to do this kind of thing when they are using cutoff lines. I haven't seen it do this if there are no cutoff lines. So to me, there's an association with an object being there in the sun's corona and the sun doing this kind of thing, jolting. I don't think it's the camera. I actually think it's the sun moving in response to these objects. I know it's far-fetched that the sun is doing this kind of thing, but I have to say, from the evidence that I see from these observations, that I think that's what's actually happening.
Well, yeah, I mean, whenever you look at it, remember, this is in a 48-hour time, or 48-hour time lapse, and when you look at it second by second, or in 5-minute increments or 15-minute increments, then you could notice the gradual movement. So remember, what you're looking at is a 48-hour time stamp, or a time loop. It's going to look like it's shaking, rattling very, very quickly because of the speed that they're playing the video. But whenever you go back and you look at this second by second, 5-minute, 15-minute increments, then you could start to see what the doctor's referring to. And yes, it's a definite possibility. And again, we've been seeing this now more and more.
Mm-hmm.
It's now almost every single week the SDO footage is flawed,
yes,
with this movement.
Mm.
And I'm not buying the repositioning of the camera. I'm not buying any of the garbage that the debunkers spew when it comes to this, because they don't really come up with credible information. They just basically come right out and just call you a liar and make fun of you, call you an idiot, and that's it. But the fact of the matter is, the doctor is easily proving that what you're seeing is movement.
Mm.
We've already showed you that there are objects that are possibly orbiting, and that's what I think they're doing. I think they're in tight orbits around the sun. That would definitely account for all of the so-called geoengineering, all of the chemtrails. I mean, we're now coming up with people that are revealing information on smart clouds, which I have to delve into here pretty soon. Folks, the fact of the matter is, they can do just about anything. We don't know what these governments have up their sleeve. We don't know what they've been working on. It's been told to me by a very good military friend of mine who's been retired for some time now. And his statement directly to me was, listen, they are at least 50 to 60 years advanced in technology that we use on Earth. They are at least 100 years advanced when it comes to space and what they actually let the population know about. So that makes you think. That makes you think a lot.
Yes.
But, getting back to your report, Doctor, this observation was pretty good. This was fantastic, showing the distances and the movement. I could see that clear as a bell.
Yes, thank you, Scott. Yes, and I must say that from the Hinode data, we know there are objects, lots of objects in the sun's corona now. If you look, I know that when you made your video, you look carefully at all those images. With the darker objects and surrounding the darker objects, there were smaller objects that were not as dark. And these objects would have been with the sun longer. They've been there longer. They've been absorbing radiation for a while. And I think the 5 that we saw were new arrivals. That's why they were so dark. This means that these objects are still arriving at the sun, and more of them are arriving. They're absorbing the sun's energy, and the sun is getting more and more affected. And the objects also getting brighter and more difficult to hide. So the use of the cutoff lines becomes quite dramatic this time. As you can see in all these images, the cutoff line is moved upwards. And if you scroll down even further, you will see less and less. The yellow arrows point to where all the cutoff lines are. The red arrow points to the direction of the sun's motion when it's out of focus, and it's always perpendicular to the cutoff line. So it seems like the sun is moving in response to the object that is being hidden, or objects. There may be more. There are at least 3 cutoff lines used. The rounded ones on the outside hiding part of the corona, and then the horizontal one hiding part, the large part of the face of the sun, the actual body of the sun. And the cutoff line gets to that point, and then the whole sun is cut off. We don't get to see the sun for quite some time before we start seeing it again. So this is what I saw in these images. Obviously, there are objects there. In the Hinode data, we saw what these objects actually look like.
Yeah,
so these
absolutely.
are the objects that they are hiding. So now we know what they are hiding. So if we scroll down to the next set of images, again, we see the sun, the motion of this is on the left. We have the last image from figure 7, so the figure before this one, and then between here and the next image, we don't see the sun at all. In other words, they covered it up completely, so we would see no images of the sun in that time. And so the last image is from 1621, and the next image is from 1708. So nearly 1 hour difference.
Yeah, now I could attest to that because the screen is completely black.
That's right. The screen was completely black.
Yeah, it just disappears.
And then when the sun appears, it's in motion, again, vertical motion with a small cutoff part of the sun at the bottom. The yellow arrow indicates it. Again, the cutoff line is horizontal. The object they are hiding is obviously below that. And the sun is moving in a direction perpendicular to that. So it's either attracted to the object or repelled by the object.
Pretty amazing.
Yes, it's amazing what's happening with the sun. It's actually unbelievable, but
it's also amazing at how much they try to cover it up with their nonsense.
Exactly.
The best bet would be to just, let people know, what is happening, and to maybe, start teaching the population about what is occurring, and giving people that knowledge and a chance to prepare, save themselves in some way. I mean, we're not trying to push total destruction, apocalyptic, all this other blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is we have a situation. We've had this situation for quite some time. We can see clearly how things on this planet have changed drastically just over the past 5 years, and now just over the last year. So nobody can deny that. That much is an absolute fact. And I really haven't heard anybody come out and say, okay, these are the reasons why. Just not hearing it.
No.
I'm not hearing it from any, space weather office that the United States federal government has that I don't think anybody works at. We don't hear NOAA coming out and saying much of anything. We don't hear the USGS talking about the earthquake activity around the world. We're hearing a bunch of nothing. Crickets. Why? Because they don't want to come out and start publicizing this by having press conferences and making statements, therefore drawing more attention to what others may not be seeing because they're not that observant.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and we are doing the work of finding out. We're trying to find out what is going on. It's always been my idea to figure out what was going on in the solar system, because I've mentioned before, seeing the sky was looking red, the clouds above my head at sunset were looking red. And I started looking for reasons for that. And it has led me down to this path. And I'm very glad that I'm working with you, Scott, because you are so good at this. You're so good at picking up and just finding these amazing images. And so, thank you.
Well, I definitely think that there's a higher power guiding me because, we've been working together for some time now, but now more on a personal level. And, I told you, just wait till you get here to the United States.
Yes.
You will see what happens to me. I'll be quite honest, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not a very religious man. I believe in a higher power. I believe in God. I believe in creation. And it just seems like, something just pops directly into my mind and it tells me, okay, get up from a dead sleep like I've done the last 2 days in a row, 2 a.m., 2:38 a.m., bingo, I'm up wide awake, and I go directly to my computer and I go directly to where I'm being told to go. And that's when I'm finding things. That's how it's been for the last year. And to me, that has to be a higher power. I mean, I consider myself to be an intelligent man, but to come out and just start finding these things like a needle in a haystack.
Mm.
So just like the doctor, we both feel the same way, that something is leading us and something joined us from different parts of the world. You know, the doctor's from South Africa. I live in the East Coast of the United States. Two people finding each other like that is a needle in a haystack. And then combining your qualities and your intelligence to do what we're doing, well, I have to believe in divine intervention, a higher power. Bottom line.
Yes.
I mean, me and a doctor, we've talked about that,
Yes, we
numerous times.
Mm.
And hey, if this is what we are led to do, then so be it.
Yes, thank you for that, Scott. But I must say it's wonderful working with you, and you are extremely intelligent. I've seen you operate a lot lately, and I've seen how intelligent you are. And so I'm very glad to be working with you.
Yeah, same here, doctor. Yeah, same here.
Good.
Absolutely. We definitely have an agenda, and we're getting it done,
Yes.
little by little.
Yes, I know. Even though they hide these things from us, in fact, what they do to hide these objects sometimes can be used as observational evidence in itself. So it becomes quite fascinating it's detective work as well as scientific observations, really. So what we see here is the next phase, when now the cutoff line, first the cutoff line went upwards, and now a cutoff line starts from the top and moves downwards. So why would it do that? Well, first the object moved up over the sun, and now it's moving down. So the cutoff line moves in front of the object, really. And the blue arrows, we'll look at another image, but there's actually evidence where the blue arrows are that the corona is shrinking. It's darker, or it's smaller than on the previous image. And so I just pointed that out. But we'll see that in the next image where I've shown a close-up. But the same thing again happens here. Oh, and the red arrows point to areas where there are jagged lines, or that part at the edge of the boundary between darkness and light is much darker, and it shows that the sun is actually at least partially losing light emission. And
very
then
noticeable too. I mean, I'm staring at the images again, very noticeable. Once again, folks, if any of you want this report, you know what the proper process to go through. This is a fantastic report. This definitely proves a lot. It's time to create the army worldwide.
That's right. So again, they blocked out the sun completely between 1717 and 1821. And then when it came back again, it was in motion like this. I mean, how does a camera do this at just that time? It just doesn't make any sense. A camera would jolt at irregular times, not exactly when the sun comes back, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. This
is actually the sun doing this. So here we have a close-up of those images, and the red arrows point to the jagged edge at the top image on the right, and that jagged edge always tells me that above that the sun is actually going dark. And so the cutoff line is not just hiding the object that is above the cutoff line, it's actually possibly hiding the fact that that object is causing the sun to lose light emission, just like it does during the so-called STO eclipse, which they've tried so hard to hide from everybody. And on the left-hand side, we actually see that at the edge, it's dark purple. And it goes dark purple because above that, I think the sun is also losing light emission. And you can see the same thing in the lower image. You can see how dark the edge gets at the boundary, and we see again a jagged edge.
So this would almost like be like short circuiting.
That's right.
With electricity.
That's right. So these objects are drawing so much energy from the sun that it loses the ability to ionize its surface plasma. So it cannot emit light anymore. And of course, the surface charge on the sun, the electric field, also powers the cold fusion that's happening on the sun. So both of it goes out. That's because of the energy drain. And then once these objects move a bit further away, then the sun uses, again, its internal energy to, again, generate its electric field, so the light goes on again. But you can see the corona here. This is actually the edge of the corona on both sides, and it's indicated by the blue arrows. You see that the corona is shrunk. If we compare it with the top image where we see more of the sun with the lower image, we see that the corona has shrunk down so that the edge meets the place where the sun has gone dark and is indicated by the red arrow. This is exactly the same thing that happens at the SDO eclipse season, where the corona shrinks rapidly as the progression of the darkness moves across the face of the sun. So we see the same thing happening. So I think the sun, we don't know how far the darkness goes because of the cutoff line, but definitely there is at least some partial loss of light emission from the surface of the sun.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. Now that was this bottom part of your report. This was what we were just discussing. And in conclusion?
So this data supplied by the Hinode spacecraft shows that there were 5 objects moving across the sun. And the closest examination of these images reveals that they are brown dwarf stars, that there are more of them that have been there longer, and they are now emitting light from their gaseous envelope. These are all brown dwarf stars. There are large amounts of these objects on the sun. All of them are draining the sun of energy. So it's no wonder the sun sometimes looks so much darker than it did before. These objects, when they start emitting light, because some of these images are in X-rays, obviously emit X-rays, but the darker ones are not able to yet. They are, however, it's obvious that the ones that have been there longer have rejuvenated up to a point. They are able to ionize their gaseous envelope. They start emitting some light from their cores. And that shows that they start to rejuvenate and start to operate more and more like they once did as main sequence stars, even having cold fusion from their surfaces. The SDO, of course, shows loss of light emission and obviously objects also in the sun's corona that the powers that be, NASA, is trying to hide from us.
Yes, they most certainly are.
Yes.
Yes, they most certainly are. Doctor, that was an absolutely fantastic report. Definitely answered some questions, I hope, for a lot of people. And real quick before we go, folks, I want you to pay very close attention to what's up on your screen. Our moderator, Mr. Curious Unknown, has been doing some fantastic work. And he did some video, which I did a short video on today, and he emailed me a link to it. And, you know, I was pretty thrown back by what we were seeing. We've been going round and round for a long period of time, trying to discover this possibility of a sun simulator or multiple artificial sources of light being used to disguise and hide and shield these objects so we don't see them. Now, yes, I'm sure that there are probably other objects that we have not seen yet on some of the NASA cameras, things of that nature. But individual observations from the ground is very important. Do not let anyone fool you that you can't see an object with your camera, or as it's been called, your 10-cent cell phone camera or your video camera. Now, you never know when a small breakdown in this anomaly is going to occur, meaning you're at the right place at the right time and you're documenting it, whether it be with a picture or a video. So, Mr. Curious Unknown, our moderator, did a fantastic video. I took some still photographs from his video because I noticed some things that were out of the ordinary. And folks, listen, I view thousands of images constantly and video. I have a lot to go through. You start to recognize, a lot of these anomalies and these things. Now, I touched up one of the still photographs from what I took from his video, and I took out the bright glare of the sun, the supposed light source right here. All of a sudden now you see this massive object behind it, and then something right here, which almost could be possibly part of the shielding process. Now, Jeff P., YouTube channel, fantastic researcher, he has discovered a lot with this sun simulator, something to block out our vision from the Earth. So listen, here's what I want you guys to do, because Mr. Curious Unknown is doing some great videos. He's got some good techniques. For additional information, just click on his little icon, go to his channel, subscribe, check out his videos. It's all documenting information, folks. We need to start sharing this. Also, my main guy in the chat, Hush Puppy, he's been investigating this for a long period of time. So have I. Not just this past year on YouTube. I've been investigating this for a long time. Now I just wanted to use YouTube to spread the word, uncover it, be the whistleblower. I don't care whatever label you want to put on me, but that's what we're doing. And there's a lot of people coming out with some really good information. So I wanted to share this photograph with you, and I have a couple more. This is the next photograph that I took, a still shot. And all I did was take out this big glare of the sun and just add just a little bit of color so I can see what was behind there. Take a look at this. That looks like, structure. What do you want to call that? Geological stellar structure?
Yeah, it looks like cloud formations, perhaps cloud formations or surface features on an object. And the color is magenta and purple and black. I mean, what kind of objects have those kinds of colors? It's actually brown dwarfs. And look at this. It looks like its apparent size here is 4 times the size of the sun. So I immediately calculated how far it is, assuming that it is the same size as Jupiter. And if this object is the same size as Jupiter, it would be at 10 lunar distances from Earth.
Yeah, this was a very interesting video, folks.
Yeah.
Listen, you have to go over to his channel. You got to check out the video. It's really compelling. And like I said, if you stop the video, put it into a movie maker, whatever, take some good still photographs of it like I did, and you could start to see how they were trying to cover this up. You can even see, I don't have it in this photograph, but you could start to see a focal point of light in this direction. You could even see the spinning over in this section in the video, you could even see one of the spinning discs, one of the lenses. And again, Jeff P's done some fantastic work on this. You know, me and Jeff collaborated quite a bit over the winter time.
Yes.
On this, and we've discovered some pretty freaky stuff, what they can be doing up there to literally shadow this away from you. And we all have to admit that looking up at the sun, all of these weird shapes, from the shape like a lemon to a square to a rectangle to a diamond, the rays of the sun are now in the colors of the spectrum. How is that possible? You know what I mean? Unless that light is an artificial light source coming through a lens that would create this spectrum. Now, these photographs, these are just amazing. They are definitely eye-catching. And again, it makes you wonder what the hell is going on up there. What are they really trying to hide? Because looking at this photograph, I mean, yeah, you know, definitely looks like something. Now, this was the last photograph that I did. And again, the light source looks fake.
Yeah, it looks hexagonal. That's the first thing I would notice. Also, it's not centered on the object. So I don't think this object is part of the device. It seems the device is in front of the object, trying to hide the fact that it's there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, that is a really, really, really cool picture. And the light source definitely looks like a floodlight.
Yeah, it definitely does. And the fact that it's hexagonal, it has 6 sides, is a giveaway, because the sun is not hexagonal. It should look like a circle, not a hexagon. Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty freaky.
So
pretty freaky. I mean, that's definitely compelling photograph.
Yes.
Listen, once again, folks, click on Mr. Curious Unknown. Just click on his avatar, or if you're on your computer, just click near his name. There are 3 little dots. Go to his channel, subscribe, check out his videos. He's been doing some pretty good work. Same thing goes with my main man in the chat, Hush Puppy. A lot of experience in this research. That's what we need. More and more collaboration, and more people coming to the forefront and divulging this information. I mean, that's what we need to do. That's all we can do. You know, we know we're not going to there's no real way to protect ourselves from what is happening. I guess we're going to have to experience it, hope and pray for the best. You know, the preparation, you know, supplies, food, water, a plan, medical, source of light, whatever you could think of. I'm not one of those survivalists, but there's a lot of information on the internet that if you guys are looking into that, I would definitely start brushing up on some of it. Definitely some trying times coming. There's no doubt about it. Doctor, before we end our live stream, last words?
Yes, I have some last words. I just wanted to mention that sometimes people wonder what happened to the sun. Well, the sun is still there. It's behind all this. Obviously, this object may be in front of the sun, and then the sun simulator is used to hide the object. I think our sun may look different than it used to look, and that may be the reason why we are seeing sun simulators all the time nowadays. But the sun is still there, that's for sure. And then my last words, as usual, I'd like to thank you, Scott, for all your help. And I would like to say that we are having some trying times, that things will probably get worse. But we need to remember that it's time to get to know our Creator, and that He's there to help us at this time.
I agree, 100%. Listen, folks, we're going to be back tomorrow. The doctor's working on another report, and I do want to make an announcement. There's been a lot of talk about this eclipse that is coming up, and the doctor's been working on gathering some information and making her own observations on what is about to occur. There's been all types of government movement, military movement, police personnel movement along the pathway where this eclipse is supposed to occur. I find that very odd. They're using the excuse crowd control. That's possible. But what's really happening? What is really happening? So the doctor's been digging, and she's going to prepare a report on it. I'm not sure if it will be finished tomorrow or the next day, but it will be out. And we will make sure that we put a notification up hours and hours and hours before. We'll put it up on YouTube so everybody has proper notification. And listen, folks, getting to your notifications with your YouTube channels, make sure those notifications are set up properly. Scroll all the way down to the bottom of your home screen on YouTube and look for that little box at the bottom, a little button that says restricted. Make sure that is turned off, because we found a bunch of people today complaining they couldn't see the channel anymore, my channel. Here, mysteriously, their YouTube channel was placed in restriction mode. So there you go, folks. The powers that be creeping around in your electronics, stopping the flow of information. It's not that hard when you have big companies like this pulling the strings. They think they're the puppet master, but they're not. But anyways, folks, we urge all of you to please make sure you stay tuned to the Nibiru channel, Planet X News, and the Physicist channel. She's doing daily reports every single day, putting them up on her channel, and also making those reports available for anyone that would like to utilize them. So we'll be back first thing tomorrow. There's a lot of information coming in on what's happening with our sun, all of this solar wind, and the earthquake situation around the globe. So make sure you stay tuned. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us, being part of our team. I also want to thank the large number of people once again today that have stepped up, that have purchased the doctor's reports, and they are planning to utilize the reports to do their own presentations, put them on their Facebook page and their YouTube channel, and this helps spread the word. If you don't want to do the reports, just watch the doctor's videos. All the information is up there, and that is absolutely free. So everybody, have a great evening, and we will be back tomorrow. Be safe. Take care.